The sun was burning bright over the dry desert training base. A strong wind blew sand across the long shooting range, carrying the sound of gunfire again and again. Young Marine snipers lay flat on the ground, looking through their scopes, trying to prove they were the best shooters in the unit. Loud cheers, loud orders, loud confidence, everything and everyone looked tough and proud, but among them moved a man who did not belong. He was old, very old. His back was slightly bent. His hair was white like winter snow. His uniform wasn't a uniform. It was just a worker's shirt with a name tag almost too faded to read. He carried only a broom and a dustpan. Others did not even notice his name. His job was simple: clean the range after the soldiers finished training. He pushed the broom slowly, carefully, like he had all the time in the world. Not a sound from him, just the scratch of broom against sand. But the truth was different. While everyone thought he was just a cleaner, his eyes were watching. He watched how the young Marines held their rifles. He watched how they breathed. He watched how they missed. He saw every mistake, and behind those old eyes, there was knowledge. Knowledge deep like the ocean. Knowledge earned from years that nobody here knew about. One Marine, full of pride, shouted after hitting his target, "I am the best. No one can beat this shot!" His friends laughed and clapped loudly, but the old man kept sweeping. The young Marine noticed him and smirked. "Hey, old man," he yelled, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Be careful with that broom. Don't hurt yourself." His friends laughed even louder now. The old man didn't look up. He kept working. The broom moved back and forth. Silence was his answer. This reaction only made the Marine want more attention. "Hey!" he shouted again. "You know how to shoot, Grandpa? Or only how to sweep sand?" Again, no answer. But if someone looked closely, they would see something strange. Every time a Marine fired a bullet, the old man's eyes slightly narrowed, as if he already knew where the bullet would go before it even left the barrel. He wasn't ignoring them. He was calculating. The Marine sergeant walked over, annoyed. "Focus on the training," he ordered. "We have tests next week. You boys need to improve." The snipers returned to firing, but now their attention was half on the targets and half on the old man sweeping behind them. "Look at him," the young Marine whispered. "He's too old. He shouldn't even be here." But the sergeant suddenly placed his hands on his hips and stared firmly at the old cleaner. "What's your name?" he asked roughly, slowly. The old man stopped sweeping. He looked up with calm and tired eyes. "My name doesn't matter, sir," he said quietly. The sergeant frowned. "What are you doing near the firing line?" "Stay behind the safety zone." "Yes, sir," the old man said, nodding politely, and stepped a few feet back. But even then, his eyes remained locked on the targets. The young sniper, full of ego and arrogance, picked up a new magazine of bullets and reloaded his rifle quickly. He lay down again, but his eyes were still on the old cleaner. And then, something unexpected happened. The wind changed. A strong gust blew across the range. The flag near the sandbags flapped wildly, a sign that every shooter needed to adjust their aim, but none of them noticed. Only the old man saw the change. The young sniper fired. The bullet curved away from the target and hit the ground far right. He cursed loudly and hit the rifle with his hand. The old man finally spoke. "You aimed too low," his voice calm and sure. "You should have raised your barrel. The wind is strong today." Everyone froze. All eyes turned toward the old cleaner. The young Marine laughed loudly again. "Oh, really? You think you know better than U.S. Marine snipers?" "It was just advice," the old man answered, turning away again. But now, curiosity had replaced laughter. The sergeant took a step closer. "You speak like you've fired a rifle before," he said suspiciously. The old man kept his eyes low. "I used to." "Long ago? How long?" the sergeant questioned. "A lifetime ago," he whispered. Something about the way he said it. Something about the silence that followed. It made even the toughest Marines uneasy. The young sniper wasn't satisfied. He stood up, holding his rifle casually, and walked toward the old man. "If you really know shooting, why don't you come here and show us?" The old man shook his head. "I'm just here to clean." The Marines started laughing again. "What's wrong, Grandpa? Scared? You'll fall and break your bones? Maybe he can't even lift a rifle. Does the broom feel heavier to you, old-timer?" The old man breathed out slowly. He did not like attention. He did not like memories returning. But the disrespect hurt. Not because of pride, but because these young men had no idea what shooting really meant. He turned toward the sergeant. "If I take a shot," he asked softly, will you all go back to training seriously?" The sergeant raised his eyebrows. "Are you saying you can hit a target?" The old man finally lifted his head. His eyes changed. There was no tiredness now, no weakness, only a sharp, cold focus like a weapon locked on target. "Yes," he answered simply. The range fell silent. For the first time. Even the wind seemed to wait. The sergeant nodded slowly. "All right, old man," he said. "Take one shot." He pointed at the farthest target. Almost impossible distance. "If you hit that, they will listen." The young Marine tossed his sniper rifle to the old cleaner, laughing. "Try not to drop it," he mocked. The old man caught the weapon smoothly, perfectly, like the rifle belonged in his hand since birth. Every Marine's smile disappeared. Something was happening, something they didn't understand yet. The old man walked toward the shooting line. His old boots pressed softly into the sand. He lay down with steady movements. No shaking, no fear. His finger rested on the trigger. Light and gentle. He breathed once. The world went quiet. He looked through the scope like a man reunited with an old friend. Not a sound. Not a blink. Only focus. Then, with calm confidence, he whispered, "Watch closely." He fired. The moment the old man fired, the desert wind paused. Like nature itself wanted to see the truth. The sound of the bullet cracked through the air like a lightning strike. Every Marine's eyes widened. Every heartbeat stopped. The young sniper who had mocked him leaned forward, expecting the bullet to curve away or hit the sand like a joke. The bullet traveled across the scorching hot air, faster than the Marines could track. The sun reflected off the metal as the shot reached the farthest target. Then, tink! A clean, sharp impact. The farthest metal target began to shake. Then slowly, it spun, a perfect bullseye. For 3 long seconds, nobody breathed, no jokes, no laughter, only shock. The old man lowered the rifle carefully, placing it on the ground like a sacred thing. He stood up quietly and spoke very softly. "You still need to raise your barrel in this wind." A chill moved through the entire range. The Marines stared at him like he had just performed magic. The sergeant's mouth opened slightly in disbelief. The old cleaner handed the rifle back. The young sniper stepped forward, face turning red. That was luck," he said loudly, trying to protect his pride. But his voice shook. "Do it again." The old man looked toward the targets, then back at the Marines. "One shot was enough," he said. But the Marines were already whispering to each other. How did he do that? His position was perfect. His breathing. Like a textbook. No, like a master sniper! The sergeant took a slow step closer, eyes narrowed, studying the old man's stance, his calm breathing, his flawless technique. "No beginner shoots like that," he said firmly. "No cleaner shoots like that?" The wind picked up again, dust swirling around them. The sergeant asked, "Who taught you to shoot?" The old man paused. His eyes looked far away, like he was seeing a different time, a different battlefield. "I learned," he answered quietly, "the hard way." Those words carried weight like lead, carried memories that hurt. The Marines wanted more. Their curiosity had replaced arrogance now. Another sniper, more respectful this time, stepped forward. "Sir, would you take one more shot?" The old man stared at the target again, not for pride, not for attention, but because he saw their hunger to learn. He slowly nodded. "I will give you one more." He picked up the second sniper rifle. This one was heavier, high-end, long range, a weapon only the best shooters used. He checked the weight, balanced it perfectly. He lay down again. This time, the wind became stronger. The flag pulled sharply to the right. Sand blew across the open desert. Everyone knew the shot was impossible now. Even the sergeant whispered, "This distance is too far." But the old man's breathing slowed. He didn't fight the wind. He studied it. He noticed every movement. How the flags pulled, how dust rolled, how heat waves bent the air. He adjusted the rifle slightly upward and left. His finger rested lightly again. No shake, no doubt. He fired. The bullet flew, then almost disappeared in the heat. For a long moment, nothing. The young Marine smirked. "Missed it," he said under his breath. But just then, ping. This time the bullet hit a target behind the first one, even farther, hidden among shadows. A target so distant, even the Marines had forgotten it was there. That target began to swing wildly. Silence again. But this silence was different. Not shocked silence. Respectful silence. The young sniper stepped back. His pride was broken. His mouth stayed closed now. The sergeant slowly approached the old man. "That was no accident," he said firmly. The old man kept looking at the swinging target. "No," he replied. "No accidents in shooting." The sergeant gave a slow, deep nod. "You're not just any veteran," he said quietly so others wouldn't hear. "Thal veteran," he said quietly so others wouldn't hear. "Thal." Old man looked at him. His eyes calm but tired. "I don't want to be remembered," he whispered. I just want to be left with peace. But the sergeant shook his head. You just showed these Marines something they have never seen. Discipline, control, skill, experience that only comes from real battle. The Marines were still staring at him like a ghost from a legend. The young sniper walked up carefully. He swallowed hard before speaking. Sir, can you teach us? The old man froze. Teach? Train again? Go back to a world filled with bullets and screams? He turned away, shaking his head. My war is over, and so, he started walking off the range, but the sergeant wasn't done. Wait! The old man paused. You said you learned the hard way, the sergeant said. That means you have stories, and lessons, that could save lives. The old man closed his eyes for a moment. Pain flashed through his mind. A battlefield. A team calling for help. A mission gone wrong, and a silence that lasted years. He opened his eyes and whispered, I lost too much in the war. The sergeant stepped closer, lowering his voice. We all lost someone, but that doesn't mean we stop helping those who still fight. The Marines waited, holding their breath. The old cleaner looked at his broom lying in the sand, a symbol of a life hiding from the past. He looked at the rifle, a symbol of a life he could never truly escape. For a moment, he looked torn between two worlds, past versus present, pain versus purpose, silence versus duty. Finally, he sighed. I will give you 1 day, he said quietly. Every Marine straightened up instantly. 1 day, 1 chance, to learn from a man who could do the impossible. The sergeant nodded respectfully. Thank you. Sir, the old man picked up his broom again, but now, everyone saw him differently. He was no longer just a cleaner. He was a ghost from a forgotten battlefield, a man whose name was spoken only in old war stories. Legend who had returned when they least expected it, and this was only the beginning. The sun was bright above the Marine base when everything changed. The training range was quiet. The old veteran, still holding his broom, was ready to leave. The Marines were talking about his incredible shots. Some still whispered, trying to understand how a man who cleaned floors could shoot like a legend. But then, wheel! The base alarm sirens exploded across the desert. Red lights flashed on tall poles. Marines froze for a second, confused. Then orders boomed from loudspeakers. All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill! Marines grabbed their rifles and helmets, running toward their posts. The sergeant shouted commands with a voice full of urgency. Move! Move! This is level red! Everyone to cover! Dust filled the air as boots stomped over the ground. But the old man didn't panic. He looked up at the sky, his eyes sharp like a trained predator. A Marine radio crackled nearby. Unidentified drone detected approaching the perimeter. Another voice replied, hostile intent confirmed. Drone armed with explosives. The young sniper looked scared. Explosives? If it reaches the ammo storage, it will destroy half the base, the sergeant finished with a dark tone. Marines scanned the sky, searching, but the veteran already found it. He pointed up. There, he said calmly. Far above, almost hidden in the sunlight, a dark dot moved silently. Too fast, too sharp. A deadly machine with a deadly mission. The sergeant grabbed binoculars. It's heading straight for us. Marines aimed their rifles and took positions, but the wind was strong. The drone was too high. Its shape was tiny and hard to lock onto. Shots fired. Tat, 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 tat. Bullets missed. The drone continued forward without fear. The veteran watched, expression serious. He spoke like a warning. You are aiming at what you want to hit, not at where it will be. The Marines didn't understand. They fired again, but again. Miss. The drone now entered attack range. A small hatch opened under its belly. A metallic click echoed from above. The sergeant's heart dropped. Bomb release in seconds. He shouted. The young sniper's hands shook. Sergeant, what do we do? The sergeant looked around desperately. We need 1 accurate shot. 1. He turned toward the old man. Hope flickered in his eyes. Sir, please. The old man hesitated. He looked at the Marines, young soldiers with long futures. Lives that could be saved. Battles they could win later. He nodded slowly. Bring me the best rifle. The sergeant didn't waste a second. He grabbed a high-precision sniper rifle from a nearby gun rack. Scope adjusted for sky targets. Long-range barrel polished for accuracy. He placed it gently in front of the old cleaner. The veteran set down his broom. His calm hands lifted the rifle like he had never stopped using one. Marines watched in total silence. He knelt on 1 knee. Not lying down this time, no time for perfect position. He breathed in, slow and deep, ignoring the noise, the alarms, the shaking ground. He tracked the drone, reading its movement. The young sniper whispered, "Can he really hit it?" The sergeant whispered back, "He already did the impossible twice today." The drone tilted, preparing for attack. A red laser lined up on the fuel station below, 10 seconds until destruction. 9, 8, 7, the old veteran whispered. Wind, strong, south pole. He adjusted the aim slightly. 6, 5, he didn't blink. He didn't fear. 4, 3, he whispered again. 1 shot. Always 1 shot. 2, his finger pressed the trigger. Crack! A single bullet sliced through the desert sky. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, boom! The drone exploded mid-air, a fireball blooming like a deadly flower. Burning metal rained down far from the base, harmless in the sand. Marines dropped their weapons and stared upward. They were alive, all because of one man. The young sniper gasped. He saved us. The sergeant stepped forward, eyes wide with gratitude and respect. That was not skill, he said quietly. That was mastery. The old man stood up, breathing steady, but his eyes looked distant, like ghosts from his past were calling again. Marines surrounded him, not in fear, but in honor. One Marine asked carefully, "Sir, who are you really?" The old veteran looked down for a long, painful moment. Then he answered, "I am someone who lost too much when he was a soldier, and tried to hide from the world." The Marines listened silently. "But peace never follows soldiers," he continued. "Danger always finds us again." The sergeant nodded slowly. "You were not called here by accident," he said. The veteran sighed, picking up his broom again. "I just want to finish my shift." But the Marines didn't let him walk away this time. The base commander himself arrived, rushing from headquarters. He stared at the burning debris in the distance, then turned to the old man. "Report to my office," the commander ordered. "We need to know everything about your past, and why a legend like you is sweeping floors." Marines whispered around. "A legend? He's famous? Who was he in the war?" The old man didn't answer. He simply looked at the commander with tired eyes. "I am not a hero," he said softly, "just a survivor." But deep inside, everyone knew. Heroes always deny being heroes. The commander looked at the sergeant. "Escort him, and treat him with full respect." "Yes, sir." As they walked away, the Marines stood in a line, straight, silent, grateful. They saluted the old man. For the first time in years, he returned the salute, but he knew. This emergency was only the beginning. More danger was coming, and his quiet life of sweeping floors was over. The old veteran sat quietly in the commander's office. The walls were filled with medals, flags, and photos of heroes, but none of them looked as calm or as lonely as the man sitting in front of the desk. The commander placed a file down slowly. "This is you?" he asked. Inside the file was a picture, a younger version of the old man, same steady eyes, same calm face, but wearing a sniper's uniform with medals shining on his chest. Name, Master Gunnery Sergeant William Hawkeye. Turner, United States Marine Corps, Classified Operations Sniper, the commander continued, voice softer now. "You were one of the best snipers in Marine history. They say you never missed a target." The old man looked away. His voice shook slightly. "I missed once." The room went still. He closed his eyes, remembering a battlefield long ago. His spotter, his closest friend, calling for help, and him unable to save him in time. "That one miss cost a life," he whispered. "After that, I promised never to fire a rifle again." Silence filled the room like heavy smoke. The commander leaned forward. "But today, you saved hundreds of lives. You didn't fail. Not this time." The old man didn't speak. A knock came at the door. The sergeant entered with the young sniper standing behind him, shoulders straight, eyes full of respect. The young sniper said, "Sir, I want to learn from you. Please, teach me to shoot like you." The old man studied the young Marine, the same energy, the same fire he once had. "Why?" he asked. The young sniper answered simply, "So I don't miss when it matters." Those were the exact words the veteran once told his own mentor many years ago. His heart softened. He finally understood. His story wasn't about his failure. It was about helping others succeed. He took a long breath and nodded. "One day at a time," he said. "No shortcuts. No ego." The young Marine smiled, relief and honor shining in his eyes. The commander stood and saluted. "You may not want the title, but you are a hero to this base." Slowly, the old man stood and returned the salute, his hand steady and proud. A few days later, the old veteran walked on the shooting range again. But not with a broom this time, with a purpose. Marines lined up, waiting for their turn, ready to learn. The young sniper stood closest, watching every move. The sergeant whispered proudly, "They don't see a cleaner anymore. They see guidance. They see experience. They see hope." The old man placed his hand on the rifle one more time, not to fight a war, but to prevent losses in the future. He gave instructions, corrections, wisdom from years of sacrifice. And when the young sniper took a difficult shot, ping, perfect hit. The Marines cheered. The veteran smiled, a real smile this time. His past pain would never fully disappear. But now, his past had new meaning. He was no longer hiding. He was once again what he was always meant to be: a protector, a teacher, a Marine. As the sun set behind them, the American flag waved above the base, strong and fearless. The old veteran looked at the young Marines and said quietly, "Legends don't live in medals. They live in the ones they train." And with that, his story found its peace, the end.